And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode. On a moonless night, Theodore disappeared. And the next morning, the room rented by a strange woman was left with nothing but an empty bag and bloodstains spreading across the wooden floor. In a remote corner of the world, where hills roll endlessly like silent waves, there lies a land where time seems to slow down gently, like the breath of earth and sky. South Carolina, where the green of the Dumont coffee trees blankets the landscape like an endless carpet, tenderly embracing the sky. Every morning, when the thin mist still clings to the leaves, the delicate fragrance of coffee blossoms fills the air, blending with the lively songs of forest birds and the rustling of leaves in the soft breeze, creating a profound and tranquil symphony. The atmosphere carries the pure sweetness of the earth, mingled with the gentle bitterness of newly blossomed coffee, making anyone who steps by pause and take a deep breath to soak in the peaceful moment. Amidst this vast greenery, a small wooden house nestles on the hillside, like a cozy nest embraced by majestic nature. Its slanted roof, weathered wooden walls covered in moss, and frosted glass windows reflect the soft morning sunlight. This is the home of the Elijah family, whose blood and soul have been tied to this land for generations. James Elijah, the family patriarch, is a middle-aged man with deeply tanned skin, marked by years under sun and rain on this land. His eyes hold an indescribable swept into whirlpools of gambling, drinking, and other fleeting pleasures. Each night Theodore is absent from home is an unending nightmare for James and Oliver. Mounting debts, broken promises, and constant worries thicken the air at home. He is not only a financial burden, but also the source of endless emotional pain, like a ghost that never stops haunting the family home. In stark contrast to Theodore, Seraphina, the youngest daughter, is the family's pride and hope. Gentle, hardworking, and dreamy, she left the mountains for the city to pursue her academic dreams. Every time she returns home, Seraphina is like a fresh breeze blowing into the small house, bringing stories of a vast world and wondrous experiences. For James and Oliver, she is the light at the end of the tunnel, the belief that the family's future will no longer be chained to hardship and suffering. Life flowed on with its familiar rhythms, until one day, the peace was suddenly shattered by the arrival of a mysterious woman. She came from the lowlands, discreetly dressed, carrying an old but heavily laden bag full of secrets. She sought to rent a room at the Elijah home, something the family had refused for many years. At first, James and Oliver hesitated, but the woman's weary eyes and weak voice stirred their compassion. Eventually, she was given a small, secluded room at the back, rarely visited by others. In the first days, she lived quietly, paid rent on time, and caused no trouble. The atmosphere inside the house felt lighter, as if her presence brought a new breath of life. Yet, darkness still lurked somewhere unseen. Early morning in South Carolina is unlike anywhere else. Dawn spreads wide, interwoven with golden sunbeams like soft silk, covering the rolling green hills of coffee trees. Thin mists linger on leaves like crystal drops, shimmering softly in the gentle light. The whole land resembles a living painting, where nature and humans blend into a slow, delicate rhythm. Birds' songs echo through the space, leaves whisper softly in the breeze as if telling tales of generations past. James often starts his day slowly walking along the coffee rows, admiring the white buds gradually blooming. Each flower carries the promise of a bountiful harvest, a new life emerging from earth and sky. James cares for the coffee not only with his rough hands, but also with a heart quietly full of unspoken feelings. His eyes sometimes grow sad when he remembers distant days of hardship and irrevocable losses. Once, on a golden afternoon, he told Serafina about his elderly father, who taught him how to plant each coffee tree, about seasons of rain and sun soaked with sweat, and about the vow to protect this land for future generations. Those stories were more than the past. They were a warm flame, lighting James's soul, helping him stand firm through life's storms. In another corner of the house, Ingrid, James's wife, her hair streaked with gray, and her tanned skin still bearing the gentle beauty of a mountain woman, prepares breakfast for the family. Her hands move skillfully, slicing ingredients, her voice telling small stories about daily life, trying to bond everyone closer amid life's troubles. No matter how hard life is, she always tries to keep the home warm and peaceful, a place where loved ones can return, find shelter and comfort. However, this peace is constantly threatened by Theodore's presence, a young man burning with the fire of youth, but also a flame easily ignited and quickly extinguished. He has cold eyes and a defiant face, as if challenging the whole world. Every time he leaves the house, Mrs. Oliver must hold back the fear of not knowing where he will go or what he will do. His gambling habits, long nights wandering in the fog, and arguments with his parents have become painful family stories. James once tried gentle words, but Theodore's stubbornness and rebelliousness made every effort futile. Opposite Theodore's explosion is Serafina, the daughter with dreams and ambition. She chose to study and left the mountains to seek the light of knowledge. The letters she sent home and the stories about city life made her parents proud, but also deeply missed her. Serafina understands her responsibility, not only as a daughter, but also as a bridge between the family's past and future. One late spring day, when coffee petals began to fall, carrying the breath of the harvest, a stranger appeared. She, a woman with a thoughtful demeanor, carrying an old bag, came to the small wooden house with unclear intentions. Her arrival disturbed the previously calm atmosphere, and every step she took seemed to write a mysterious new chapter. She was given the quietest small room in the house, seldom visited. In the beginning, everything was peaceful, but every night, flickering lights, strange noises, and the old bag containing unknown secrets began to reveal themselves. Theodore, in nights lost to gambling, looked at the bag with greedy eyes. The money inside could solve everything, and temptation pulled him to the brink. Within the vast old wooden house, every member carried unspoken sorrows. James, despite his tough exterior, always wrestled with one question deep inside. Could his only son still find his way back to the right path? He often sat alone by the simple wooden table, looking out over the wide coffee hills, where white flowers glowed faintly in the morning sun. Memories of his youth, when he cared for every tree with his parents, floated back, sweet but bittersweet. He once wished time could rewind so he could teach Theodore more about the values of life, perseverance, and honesty. But life did not allow that. Mrs. Ingrid, the hard-working wife, tossed many nights in their cold wooden bed. Small sounds from Theodore's room startled her awake, each time twisting her heart in worry. She remembered the early days of marriage, when life was simpler and the family had yet to face such harsh storms. She once believed love and unity could overcome all challenges. Now she only hoped for peaceful dreams and for Theodore to stop drifting into darkness and find himself again. Seraphina returned from the distant capital, carrying dreams and hopes. Yet, stepping into the old wooden house, she sensed a heavy atmosphere impossible to shake. Despite youthful confidence and new knowledge, she could not foresee the ghosts of the past lurking close. Seraphina tried to reconnect with the family, sharing stories of city life, but deep inside she knew there was an untold secret, a dark mystery waiting to be revealed. At first, the mysterious woman lived quietly, almost ghost-like, unnoticed. Her light footsteps echoed softly on wooden floors, her figure blending into the shadows of the coffee garden. Greed sowed the seed of a tragedy never before seen. As the last spring sun gently shone over the hills, ready for the coffee blossoms to burst, life around pulsed with new energy and the scent of fresh blooms. But for the Elijah family, this spring brought an indescribable unease. Oliver often spent afternoons on the porch, staring at the lush coffee garden, silently pondering the looming troubles no one dared voice. Ingrid's eyes shone with resolve, but also sorrow, watching Theodore's every move, hoping he would find himself before it was too late. Theodore, burning with youthful desires and temptations, felt an unfillable emptiness inside. He hid loneliness and wounds beneath bouts of drinking and risky gambles. On long, lonely nights, he was a drifting boat with no harbor, no anchor. Brief moments of clarity revealed despair and regret. Every time he saw Seraphina, he felt unnamed torment, as she was the stark contrast to the life he was throwing away. Seraphina was not only gentle, but the family's hearthkeeper. She sensed the changes and the unspoken tensions. Every night she lay awake, listening to the wind whisper through cracks, her heart heavy with thoughts. She knew the future was more than city books. It was responsibility for loved ones here. Each return home deepened her understanding of the hardships and love weighing on her parents' hearts. The mysterious woman with her old bag lived silently among the family. She spoke little, her deep eyes holding untold stories. One night, Theodore discovered the bag full of money, the salvation he longed for to escape his dark days. Greed broke through moral barriers, dragging him into a spiral of crime with no escape. The calm spring days only highlighted the stark difference between the modest wooden house and the growing unease inside. Oliver sat by the window, a hot coffee cup in hand, gazing at the green rose, his mind clouded with chaotic thoughts, worries about Theodore, the family's future, and dark secrets yet to be revealed. In the small kitchen, Ingrid sighed quietly while preparing dinner. She glanced toward Theodore's hurried footsteps outside, her eyes filled with unspoken fear. Each step, each look of Theodore's pierced her like a sharp knife, a reminder that peace was slipping away. Seraphina returned after many months away, carrying joy to reunite, but also restless anxiety sensing the tense atmosphere. That evening, by the flickering kitchen fire, gentle stories from her mother and soft laughter from her father couldn't dispel invisible distances. She looked at Theodore with both love and sorrow, wanting to pull him out of the darkness, but not knowing where to start. On long nights, Theodore couldn't resist the pull of the old bag. He thought of the thick money inside, the way out of debts, the last chance to change his life. But greed, a fierce flame, quickly turned into a destructive storm. One night, while everyone slept, Theodore quietly entered the small room, ready to do what his mind knew was wrong, but his greed wouldn't stop. Screams and crashing sounds shattered the night, like shards breaking the last piece. The next morning, the house was shrouded in a thick, gloomy fog. Everything seemed frozen in a moment of fate. James and Ingrid discovered the horrifying truth, pain and guilt shining clear in their eyes. They knew one wrong decision, one hidden secret, would change their family's destiny forever. The night sky above the coffee hills stretched wide, dark and sprinkled with distant stars. The breeze carried the faint scent of coffee blossoms, but inside the old wooden house, peace was shattered forever. On that fateful night, Theodore, torn by inner turmoil, greed, and despair, touched the old bag holding the heart of unspeakable secrets. Darkness wrapped him, and in a frenzied rage, he lost himself. Screams ripped through the silence, echoing off the ancient wooden walls, shaking the space with unspeakable pain. The mysterious tenant, terrified, tried to resist, but couldn't escape Theodore's violent grip. A chair broke, blood stained the cold wooden floor. When all ended, silence covered everything, spreading a haunting presence. The next morning, James and Ingrid, overwhelmed by shock and grief, found the woman's body. They stood helpless before the tragedy caused by their son, sensing their life shattering apart. No words were spoken, but the whole family knew. A door had closed, and darkness had entered the small home. James, tormented and fearful, decided to keep the secret, hiding Theodore's crime. They buried the body beneath the paper-flower tree in the garden, placing talismans to suppress the curse, hoping the matter would rest. But restless spirits would not easily let go. Cold moonlight filtered through leaves, shining on the hidden body. The wind carried whispered pleas, seeping into every corner, chilling those sensitive to the supernatural. Tension grew within the house. Ingrid suffered sleepless nights, startled by the smallest sounds. James became silent, his eyes deep with pain he could not express. Theodore seemed to vanish, leaving only the ghost of a defiant young man, eyes full of fear and unease. Serafina, during a return visit, sensed the unusual. The oppressive air, the cautious glances, and evasive words made her suspicious. She began to search for the truth behind the silent veil. The Elijah family stood on the brink, each step threatening to drag them deeper into darkness. Amidst this, James suggested renting the back room again to earn extra income, though Ingrid strongly opposed, fearing the new tenant would uncover the dark secret. Theodore, with cunning persuasion, convinced his parents to agree, believing tenants from the lowlands would stay briefly and know nothing of their past. Then came Henry, a final-year university student full of enthusiasm from the lowlands. With scholarly looks, round glasses, and a gentle smile, Henry brought fresh air to the old house. He quickly adapted to mountain life, learning about Dumont coffee and sharing passion and respect for the family tradition. But the peace was only temporary. At night, Henry began to have strange, haunting dreams. The paper flower trees were no longer pure white, but stained with dark red blood. A spirit with hateful eyes appeared, whispering desperate pleas. He woke soaked in sweat, gripped by unending fear. Memories of the old bag and shattered peace haunted him. Henry was determined to uncover the truth behind the darkness, unaware he was being pulled into the fateful whirlpool the Elijah family had hidden for so long. When night fell on the coffee hill, the last rays vanished behind the horizon. A frightening silence spread. The small wooden house was enveloped in dense darkness, cut off from the outside world. James sat by the window frame, eyes staring into the black sky. He remembered the moment he found the woman's body, the horror still fresh in his mind. Guilt and responsibility tormented him, but fear for the family's future made him remain silent. Ingrid struggled through sleepless nights. She feared the strange noises from the back room, knowing it held a terrible secret. Footsteps and quiet sighs echoed, tightening her chest. Theodore, rebellious but now showing panic and unease in his eyes, was haunted by nightmares, unable to sleep peacefully. Greed turned to fear, pushing him into self-destruction. Serafina, the youngest, noticed the abnormality as soon as she returned. The peace of old was gone, replaced by a heavy, suffocating atmosphere. She sensed the ghosts within each family member and resolved to find the truth. Amid this, James proposed renting the back room again for extra income, despite Ingrid's fierce opposition. Theodore convinced his parents, assuring them that tenants from the lowlands usually stayed briefly and knew nothing of the family's past. Thus Henry arrived, a final-year agriculture student. He carried the light of youth and passion to the hills, backpack filled with old books and burning love for coffee. From the start, Henry quickly integrated into life here. He rose early with James to tend the coffee and listened carefully to his experience. In the evening, he sat by the fire, listening to Ingrid's stories of the mountains and local customs. Henry's presence seemed to breathe new life into the old house, easing the heavy atmosphere. But the peace was short-lived. At night, Henry had strange dreams. A garden of blood-stained paper flowers, the spirit of a woman in dark traditional dress, eyes full of hatred and despair. A faint whisper echoed in his mind. "Remove the curse. Save me." He woke drenched in cold sweat, confused with muddy feet despite never leaving his room at night. Suspicious of the house and garden, Henry began searching beneath the coffee trees, discovering old talisman fragments radiating cold, eerie energy. When James and Theodore found out, Henry endured harsh beatings, bound by darkness and fear. Yet his will and thirst for truth burned bright. The old wooden house lay silent under the faint moonlight. The wind whispered cold sighs, echoing from the past. Henry felt the oppressive presence of a resentful spirit beside him, pressing heavily on his chest. He knew he could no longer hide. The truth was knocking, and he must face it. The next morning, Henry and Serafina sat in the small kitchen, eyes full of unspoken thoughts. Serafina gently asked, "Henry, are you sure you want to keep exploring this? It's no longer just our family's matter." Henry looked deep into her eyes, voice calm. "I can't stand by while those souls remain trapped. I hear their cries and must act. What about you?" Serafina sighed, worried. "I'm scared too, but I can't abandon my family. If we don't find a way, no one else will." They held hands, finding strength in each other. That evening, James called a family meeting. The atmosphere was heavy but calm. "We cannot live in darkness anymore," he said solemnly. "Secrets and sins cannot stay hidden. We must face them and find release."